Have you ever noticed that no matter how much you achieve, acquire, or accomplish, happiness always seems to be just one more milestone away? Perhaps you've reached goals that once seemed impossible. The dream job, the ideal relationship, the beautiful home, the perfect body. Yet that promised sense of lasting fulfillment remains stubbornly out of reach. Maybe you've blamed yourself for not feeling satisfied, for wanting more, for that persistent emptiness that follows even your greatest victories. And society has been right there to offer solutions. Another purchase, another achievement, another upgrade, another improvement. But what if I told you this endless pursuit isn't your failure? What if I told you that this constant sense of not enough isn't a flaw in your character, but the intended product of a system designed to keep you forever chasing? The truth is that modern society has sold us a profound deception about happiness, that it comes from external acquisition rather than internal cultivation, that it's found in the future rather than the present, that it's dependent on what you have rather than who you are. This deception isn't accidental. It's deliberate, strategic, and enormously profitable for those who benefit from your perpetual dissatisfaction. You see, a content person is a terrible consumer. Someone who finds peace within themselves rarely feels compelled to fill the void with products, status symbols, or endless distraction. And so the machinery of modern life has become expert at creating and maintaining that void, keeping you just unhappy enough to keep consuming, just hopeful enough to keep believing the next purchase will be the one that finally brings contentment. Okay, before we move further, do like and subscribe to my channel. It means a lot, thanks. This mass deception about happiness is not merely annoying, it is devastating our collective mental health. Look around you. We live in an era of unprecedented material abundance and technological convenience, yet rates of depression, anxiety, and loneliness have reached epidemic proportions. Is this merely coincidence? Or is it the inevitable result of building an entire society on a fundamental lie about what makes a human life worth living? Every day, you are bombarded with thousands of messages, both subtle and explicit, all reinforcing the same core idea. You are not enough as you are. Your body is not attractive enough. Your possessions are not impressive enough. Your achievements are not significant enough. Your social media presence is not engaging enough. And the solution, conveniently, is always something you can buy, consume, or display to others. The more you internalize these messages, the more disconnected you become from your authentic self. The more you chase external validation, the more hollow your victories feel. The more you measure your worth through comparison, the more inadequate you inevitably become. This isn't just making you unhappy, it's making you ill. It's shattering your connection to yourself and others. It's reducing your one precious life to an endless series of transactions and performances. But there is another way, a path that requires courage rather than credit cards. Real fulfillment isn't found in endless acquisition, but in meaningful connection to yourself, to others, to something larger than yourself. It isn't measured by what you own, but by what you experience. It doesn't depend on others' approval, but on your own integrity and presence. This alternative isn't just more fulfilling, it's more sustainable, both for your own well-being and for our shared planet. Because a society built around authentic well-being rather than manufactured desire creates humans who are resistant to manipulation, who make choices based on values rather than impulse, who find richness in simplicity rather than excess. The question is, are you ready to abandon the deception and begin the harder, deeper work of cultivating genuine happiness? Picture this familiar scene. After years of effort, you finally get that promotion, buy that house, lose those pounds, or gain those followers. For a moment, there's genuine joy, a rush of dopamine, validation, accomplishment. You did it. You arrived. Yet within days, sometimes even hours, that feeling fades. The new position brings new stresses. The dream house reveals hidden problems. The weight loss doesn't transform your life. The followers demand constant content. And soon you're looking toward the next achievement, the next purchase, the next improvement, convinced that this time, the satisfaction will stick. This cycle is not accidental. It's the core engine of consumer capitalism. The happiness narrative sold to us is deliberately designed to be unattainable, because perpetual satisfaction would collapse the entire economic system. Think about it. Corporations don't profit from your contentment. They profit from your constant craving for more. Media doesn't benefit from your self-acceptance. It benefits from your insecurities and fear of missing out. Politicians don't gain power from your sense of sufficiency. They gain it from your anxieties and tribalism. The manufactured happiness narrative works by creating an impossible equation. That joy equals acquisition plus achievement minus imperfection. It teaches us to outsource our well-being to external circumstances rather than internal cultivation. It convinces us that happiness is always conditional, always future-based, always dependent on the next thing. And most insidiously, it frames any failure to achieve lasting satisfaction as a personal deficiency rather than a systemic deception. If you're not happy, the narrative whispers, you must be doing something wrong. So you try harder, consume more, optimize further, feeding the very system that created your discontent. The greatest triumph of this narrative is convincing billions of people to blame themselves for their inability to find lasting fulfillment in a system specifically designed to prevent it. But once you recognize this pattern, you can begin to see through it. You can start to question whether the restlessness you feel after each accomplishment is your failure, or evidence that you've been sold a fundamentally flawed formula for well-being. From the moment you wake up until you fall asleep, you are immersed in what can only be called the happiness industrial complex, a vast, interconnected system of media, marketing, technology, and social pressure all working together to define, package, and sell happiness. This complex operates with remarkable efficiency, creating a constant stream of new desires while ensuring none ever fully satisfy. Social media platforms are engineered to trigger comparison and inadequacy. Their algorithms know precisely how to keep you scrolling, showing you just enough aspirational content to make you feel lacking, just enough validation to keep you coming back. Advertising doesn't just promote products. It sells emotional solutions to problems you didn't know you had. It associates basic human needs for connection, respect, and meaning with specific brands and purchases. Celebrity culture and influencers serve as the complex's perfect ambassadors, displaying curated lives that appear simultaneously aspirational and attainable. If only you follow their recommendations, use their codes, buy what they endorse. The entertainment industry reinforces these messages subtly but relentlessly, portraying happiness as the result of romantic perfection, professional success, or material abundance. Even the wellness industry, supposedly dedicated to genuine well-being, often repackages the same consumerist approach, now with organic, mindful branding. Notice how self-care has been transformed from genuine attentiveness to your needs into yet another series of expensive products and services. The entire system profits, not just financially, but ideologically from your continued discontent. A truly satisfied population might question endless economic growth, environmental destruction, workaholic culture, or extreme inequality. They might prioritize time over money, sufficiency over excess, community over competition. And that would threaten not just quarterly profits, but the entire structure of power in modern society. The most powerful aspect of this system is its invisibility. Like fish unaware of water, we rarely notice the happiness narratives surrounding us until someone points them out. They feel like natural laws rather than deliberate constructions. Yet once you recognize these patterns, the fear-based marketing, the artificial scarcity, the strategic dissatisfaction, you begin to see them everywhere. And that recognition is the first step toward building a life based on authentic values rather than manufactured desires. Why do so many people who have it all still feel profoundly empty? Why does each achievement, each purchase, each milestone bring only momentary satisfaction before the hunger returns? The answer lies in what psychologists call the happiness void, the inevitable emptiness that follows when we pursue happiness through external validation rather than internal alignment. Modern society has constructed an elaborate happiness equation. Success plus possessions plus status plus perfect relationships equals fulfillment. Yet this equation consistently fails. CEOs report similar happiness levels to their employees. Lottery winners return to baseline happiness within months. Instagram influencers with millions of followers struggle with profound loneliness behind perfect photographs. The happiness void occurs because external metrics are inherently unstable. The promotion brings temporary joy until you compare yourself to someone with a better title. The relationship feels perfect until social media shows you seemingly more passionate couples. The dream home satisfies until you visit someone with a better view. This isn't cynicism, it's the predictable outcome of basing happiness on comparative standards that continuously shift. What makes this void particularly painful is that each time you achieve a goal and feel the emptiness that follows, you don't question the formula, you double down on it. If the promotion didn't bring lasting happiness, surely the next one will. If the relationship doesn't fulfill completely, perhaps a different partner would. The system brilliantly converts its failures into further engagement with its premises. The greatest casualty in this pursuit is meaning. When happiness becomes the primary goal, paradoxically, it becomes more elusive. Viktor Frankl, who survived Nazi concentration camps, observed that happiness cannot be pursued directly. It ensues as a side effect of dedicating oneself to something greater. Yet modern happiness discourse rarely mentions purpose, service, or contribution. Instead, it emphasizes self-optimization, personal pleasure, and individual achievement, creating the perfect conditions for existential emptiness. This void is not accidental. A population seeking meaning would be far less predictable, less controllable, and less profitable than one chasing happiness through consumption. Your discontent fuels economic growth. Your search for fulfillment through products, experiences, and status symbols drives quarterly profits. Your void is somebody else's valuable market opportunity. The most tragic aspect is what this void costs us, not just financially but in life energy. Hours spent working to afford possessions that promise happiness, but deliver only brief satisfaction. Relationships damaged by expectations derived from artificial standards. Talents unexplored because they don't fit the socially approved path to success. Time, irreplaceable, precious time, invested in pursuits that leave no lasting fulfillment. But this void, painful as it is, also presents an opportunity. The very emptiness you feel after achieving what you thought would bring happiness is not evidence of your failure. It's evidence of your awakening. It's your soul telling you with absolute clarity, this is not the way. And once you truly hear this message, you can begin the journey toward authentic fulfillment. Not by seeking more intensely, but by fundamentally redefining what it means to live a good life on your own terms. Most people want to be happy, but almost no one is willing to pay the price of genuine happiness. Because, contrary to what consumer culture sells, true fulfillment doesn't begin with positive thinking or acquiring the next experience. It begins with a confrontation, a rebellion, a radical refusal to accept the terms of happiness as they've been presented to you. And that is precisely what the great philosophers and spiritual teachers have always understood. There is no authentic joy without liberation from society's happiness narratives. But what are these narratives? For decades, you've been programmed to believe that happiness is a future state, contingent on external factors. When I get the promotion, when I find the perfect partner, when I reach the ideal weight, then I'll be happy. This, when-then thinking creates a perpetual state of deferment, placing happiness always just beyond reach. It turns life into a constant striving toward a horizon that continuously recedes as you approach it. What this narrative obscures is the profound truth that happiness is not a destination but a capacity. The capacity to be fully present with whatever is, to find meaning in both pleasure and pain, to embrace the full spectrum of human experience without resistance. This capacity exists within you already, not as something to be achieved, but as something to be uncovered. And why does this matter? Because what you do not recognize about the nature of true happiness begins to distort your entire life without you realizing it. You think you're unhappy because you haven't reached certain milestones, but you're actually suffering from the pursuit itself. You think your discontent stems from insufficient achievement, but it comes from the belief that achievement will bring fulfillment. You think your anxiety reflects personal inadequacy, but it's the inevitable outcome of chasing a mirage. The unconscious acceptance of false happiness narratives manifests as constant comparison, chronic dissatisfaction, and the persistent feeling that your life is somehow behind schedule. The happiness trap creates what psychologists call a hedonic treadmill, running faster and faster while remaining in exactly the same place. But here lies the liberating paradox. True fulfillment often comes not from adding more, but from removing the obstacles to what's already there. Not from accumulating experiences, but from deepening your capacity to experience. Not from perfecting circumstances, but from embracing imperfection. The path forward requires a fundamental shift in orientation, from seeking happiness to cultivating presence, from pursuing pleasure to discovering meaning, from optimizing life to living it fully. This means developing the courage to question every happiness premise you've absorbed. It means recognizing that the most valuable moments in your life likely had nothing to do with achievement or acquisition, but with connection, creativity, contribution, or simple presence. It means understanding that vulnerability, difficulty, and even pain are not obstacles to a meaningful life but essential components of it. The journey toward authentic happiness isn't about reaching a permanent state of bliss. It's about developing the capacity to find meaning in whatever state you find yourself. It's about creating a relationship with life that doesn't depend on life conforming to your preferences. This journey begins with a simple but profound question. What if happiness isn't what I've been told it is? What if it's not about having more but experiencing deeply? What if it's not about controlling circumstances but surrendering to them? What if it's not about becoming someone else but fully embracing who I already am? This questioning isn't mere philosophy. It's the beginning of liberation from the greatest deception of our age. And when you start to break free from this deception, something extraordinary happens. You stop waiting for happiness and start embodying it. You stop deferring life and start living it. But to fully realize this freedom, you must make the most challenging choice of all. A choice that few have the courage to make, but which contains the key to everything you've been seeking. There comes a moment when you need to make a choice. Not just any choice, but the choice that will determine whether you remain trapped in society's happiness deception or finally break free. The choice between continuing to chase the mirage of externally defined happiness or committing to the radical act of defining joy on your own terms. If you've made it this far in this video, it's because something within you is stirring. Perhaps it's just a whisper of doubt about the happiness path you've been following, or perhaps it's already a scream of recognition that something fundamental has been missing. Either way, that stirring is not random. It comes from the most authentic part of you, the part that intuitively knows there is more to life than the endless pursuit of fleeting satisfactions and social validation. The part that refuses to accept that happiness is just an endless series of acquisitions, achievements, and appearances. The part that knows, without being able to fully articulate it, that true joy exists beyond the marketplace of modern life. But this recognition alone isn't enough. You must now choose. Most people, even when confronted with the truth about happiness, will retreat back into comfortable illusions. They will continue chasing artificial metrics of success. They will keep measuring their worth through others' eyes. They will persist in believing that the next purchase, promotion, or partnership will finally fill the void. They will choose anesthesia over awakening. But you don't have to be part of that majority. You can choose differently. You can choose to stop outsourcing your happiness to external authorities. You can choose to reclaim your innate capacity for joy that exists independent of circumstances. You can choose to value presence over acquisition, meaning over status, authenticity over approval. This choice isn't romantic idealism, it's practical liberation. Because when you stop measuring your life against arbitrary external standards, you regain the power to determine what truly matters. When you cease chasing happiness as a future state, you discover it was available all along in moments of genuine connection, creative expression, and purposeful engagement. When you release the exhausting pursuit of perfection, you find the freedom to be gloriously, imperfectly human. So I ask you now, what happiness deception have you been living under? What externally imposed definition of success or fulfillment have you accepted that has no real connection to your deepest values? What would your life look like if you measured it not by what you have, but by how fully you live? Write it down, not as a passive exercise, but as the first conscious step toward reclaiming your autonomy from the happiness industrial complex. The simple act of articulating this recognition is already a rebellion against the forces that profit from your discontent. And if this video has awakened something in you, if it has illuminated some aspect of the happiness deception that's been operating in your life, then you're ready for the next step in this journey. Not because this is merely interesting content, but because you're prepared to live differently. Because once you see through the great deception, you can never unsee it. And that awareness becomes the foundation for building a life of authentic joy that no one can sell you and no one can take away. What happiness myth has been holding you back? Share your realization in the comments below. Your comment isn't just feedback, it's a declaration of awareness, a moment of clarity that others might need to see. Whether it's a brief reflection or a profound insight, the act of naming the deception is already a step toward freedom from it. And if this analysis of happiness has stirred something within you, be sure to watch our next video, where we explore how to rebuild a life centered on authentic joy rather than manufactured happiness. This isn't the end of a discussion, it's the beginning of a transformation. Because understanding the great deception about happiness isn't just about seeing through illusions. It's about reclaiming the capacity for genuine fulfillment that has always been your birthright. The journey continues, and the next step is waiting.